Hello and welcome to the WriteCome.com podcast, where we help you to make money from your words. Each episode will be sharing tips, tricks, and strategies you can use to make more money from your writing, publishing, and marketing to your fans and audience. Let's get started with your host, Barry J. McDonald.
Hi, this is Barry here, and you are very welcome to this podcast episode from WriteCome.com. And today's podcast episode is entitled Labels Limit. Now, I'm sure you've seen many quiz shows in your time. I'm sure you've seen the contestant coming bouncing down the stairs from the audience, running up to greet the presenter and shake their hand, or maybe they've already been behind some kind of desk or whatever. But usually when the presenter meets them, they shake their hand, and the first question they usually ask them is, "What is your name?" And the second question they ask them is, "What do you do?" Now, for the longest time, that question used to piss me off, in that what has somebody's occupation got to do with how well they are going to do on this quiz? Now, I'm sure it was probably used maybe as some way of building rapport, or maybe kind of starting up a conversation, in that if you were a window cleaner, what's the most embarrassing thing you've seen when you've looked through a window? Or maybe a doctor or a vet, what's the strangest thing that's come into your clinic, or maybe the strangest animal you've treated? And it probably is an easy way to kind of build a conversation or get something started between the presenter and the contestant. But when you do think about it, what has somebody's occupation got to do, how well they are going to do in that quiz? And unfortunately, we do look at people in different ways because of the titles that they have, or the labels that they have on themselves. In that, if we were watching a show that had a window cleaner on it and maybe a doctor on it, we would presume that when the doctor goes on, he is going to ace this quiz. He's going to get all the questions right because he is a doctor. He's been through college, he's been through university, whatever. He has letters after his name. He's probably well read. He knows a lot. And then when you find out then when he starts answering the questions, he hasn't got a clue about anything, and he comes away with one of the lowest scores on the show. And then you have somebody like who is a window cleaner who comes on and they ace all the questions. They know about literature, they know about geography, history, and all those different things, and you find that they come away with a far better score or prize money, whatever, but they completely outshone the doctor. But in the moment before those people had opened their mouths, we were predisposed to look at them in a certain way. We were predisposed to think of the doctor was going to be successful, he was going to fly through this, and we were predisposed to think that, well, the window cleaner, because he's got a menial job, it probably means he doesn't know much, and it probably means that he isn't going to come away with much. And then you find that, the results they get are completely different. And it's because we have put a box, or we've picked up those people because of those titles or labels they had on themselves, and we had put them into a box, and we had expected a result from them because of the box we put them in. And again, too, not even people who are educated. You have people maybe who have lived all their life as maybe someone who is a mechanic, or maybe who have lived their life as, a supervisor or a sergeant or a major or something like that. And whatever occupation they have gone through their life always been known as, well, Joe over there, he's the mechanic, or that man over there, he's a major. He was a major in the army, whatever. Yeah, he's retired, but he's still a major. And, sometimes those jobs give us some kind of label or a title, and we kind of identify ourselves with that. Sometimes the labels that we identify with, sometimes when they are taken off us, you see people's lives just crumble because they don't have that title anymore. You might find somebody maybe who is, who has been well ranked in the army, who was a sergeant, a major, whatever, and then for whatever reason maybe they retire or whatever, and then you do find maybe that their health declines because they're not seen as that major. I used to always laugh sometimes when I used to work in a call center. One of the companies I used to work with was an energy company, and I used to find some old people who used to come on the phone, and they would still recognize themselves as a major or a sergeant or whatever, or a lord or a lady or whatever. Even though they had, in some cases, maybe had left that job, they still held on to that title because that title meant so much to them, and people probably looked at them in a certain way, and they probably identified themselves with that title. And again, too, you find people, as I said, sometimes when their job ends, for example, maybe if they're laid off, or maybe it comes to retirement age, when that title is taken off them and they go back to Civvy Street again, you do find that they go on a kind of mental decline or their health declines because they aren't recognized as being that title that they had. It's been taken off them, and they're no longer that supervisor who had, all that importance on, in that factory floor, or they're not that truck driver, or they're not that mechanic or whatever. And when your title is taken away from you, and you see the way somebody's health declines because they don't do the job that they don't do anymore, and they're not recognized as that person. You do find people who do retire just quickly kind of just shrivel up and they die, and or their health goes down because the title has been taken off them. So I want you to think about the labels, not just the labels that other people put on you or your job puts on you, but also the labels that you are putting on yourself and the box that you are putting in yourself. For example, what if I asked you today, I asked you a simple question to answer this question here: I am. Now, how would you answer that question? What is the first response that comes back to you when somebody says, I am? So you may say to yourself, well, I am 50, I am old, I am sick, I am a parent, I am this. I just want you to think about that for a moment. That label or that word that came up after I am. What is attached to that? So for example, if somebody said to me, well, I am old, what does that label say to you? In that you're probably thinking, well, I am old. The things to go with being old are probably that my body is going to start shutting down. I'm probably going to start feeling more aches and pains. Probably some of the opportunities that is available to young people isn't available to me now because I'm old. And because I'm old, I can't do things. I can't learn technology. I can't go to night classes. I can't do this. I can't dance. I can't go to nightclubs. I can't do these. And you do have a lot of labels go with something like that particular title or that label that we put on ourselves. Now, I've mentioned this many times before, but sometimes it's important to kind of, refresh or kind of look at the same idea over and over again from different angles. So I want you to have a look at the labels that, not only the labels I said that other people put on you, or maybe labels you've got on from your job, but just the labels that you are putting on yourself. In that, if you do look at yourself in a certain way, you are probably going to shut down parts of your talents, your abilities, because you see yourself in a certain way. Again, going back to that label of being old and not being able to use technology. Because you see yourself as old, and because you see yourself as someone who isn't going to be able to cope with new technology. If I gave you a new tablet today, or if I said to you, you can Skype somebody on the other side of the world with this particular device, you're going to look at that and it's going to look like a twig, or it's going to look at some kind of inanimate object that you just haven't got a clue. You're going to be looking at it around. You're going to be looking, how do I switch it on? Where's the buttons? How do I turn the camera on? And all those different things. And you're going to give up. You're going to just toss it away because you're going to say to yourself, well, you know something? I'm old, and because I'm old, I can't keep up with technology, and because I can't keep technology, well, this isn't going to work for me. And unfortunately, we do kind of, if we imagine our minds or our abilities or talents as this huge big filing cabinet, there's filing cabinets that go on for miles in every direction, and in each of those filing cabinets there's abilities, there's thoughts, there's ideas, there's all those different things. But because we take on a certain title or a certain label on ourselves, we shut down our brain's access to all those filing cabinets. So, and for example, going back to the old label again, because we see ourselves as old, we shut down and the lights kind of go off in the area that has got to do with the filing cabinets that has got to do with youth, newness, creativity, ideas, and all those different things. Those things are going to be switched off because we label ourselves in that way. We are solely going to be looking at the filing cabinet that has old in it, and when we pull out the trays and we go through all the little paper files inside, we're going to find all those things that we think we can do because we see ourselves in a certain way. So I want you to think about how you see people around, how you picture people because they have a certain title, whether that is a doctor or a window cleaner, because we are predisposed to think that somebody is a certain way because of the type of jobs. Or again too, what if your title was taken off you tomorrow? What if you couldn't do whatever job it is in your 9-to-5 job? would it affect your health in any way? Would it affect how you saw yourself? Would it have a slow, decline with your health or your ideas or your creativity because that title has been taken off you? And then what if you were given a new title today? What if I said to you, well, you know something? You could be a podcast right now. You could be a writer right now. You could be this or you could be that. Would you be able to take on that title, or would that seem like something that is completely outside your wheelhouse? And if it does seem like it is something outside your wheelhouse, why does it seem that way? It's probably because you're not allowing yourself to take on that title, and it's because that underlying label that you already have in place isn't going to, it's almost like a sticker. We won't let you remove that sticker and put it on you. And because I've been holding on to the sticker for so long, I have seen myself in a certain way for so long, I just can't see myself in another way. And as I said, because of that, it shuts off all those filing cabinets that have a lot more talent, ideas, and all those different things we could do with ourselves because we see ourselves in a certain way. So give that some thought today. If maybe you are seeing yourself as old, or if you recognize yourself as, because of your title, you have to act a certain way, or you have to think a certain way, or you can only do the activities you can do because you see yourself in that way. As I said, labels limit, and how are the labels that you have put on yourself are limiting yourself. So as always, maybe I hope this has helped somebody out today. If you'd like to maybe rip off some of those labels, or if you'd like to maybe access some of those filing cabinets that you have turned off and you aren't reaching right now, if you would like to maybe stretch yourself and take on the label of being a podcaster or a writer or whatever, if you want to head over to Writecom, or if you want to reach out to me, I'll certainly point you in the right direction. You can send an email to barryjmcdonald@gmail.com, or if you'd like to find out more about what I do over on the Writecom site, or if you'd like to find out some of my courses, or you'd like to stretch yourself, and if you'd like to maybe tear off that mental label that you have right now, if you head on over to Writecom, that's WRITECOME.com, you'll find the content all over the web. You'll find it on YouTube, you'll find it on iTunes, Facebook, or whatever, but you'll find it all over the web. And if you found this podcast episode, if you learned something from it today, and if you think maybe somebody else should listen to it, maybe it might open up their mind to some new ideas, feel free to hit the subscribe button and maybe or hit one of the share buttons if it is on iTunes or whatever. If you want to share this podcast episode with somebody else, I would really, really appreciate it. So as always, thanks for sharing your time again today. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like more from the Writecom.com podcast, be sure to subscribe now for more tips, tricks, and ideas you can use to make more money from your words. See you in the next episode.